Welcome to Silver Bar Stacker, folks. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their Sunday. That's right, folks. Today is Sunday, and we've got another SBS drop. But we've got a lot of other things to take care of today as well. We've got a couple of unboxings, which I'm very, very much looking forward to. In fact, this one here in the middle I've been eagerly awaiting for quite some time now. In fact, the person who sent me this was wondering, hey, have you opened this yet? And I had to tell him, I haven't had a chance to do it yet because I've been waiting for Sunday to come around so I can consolidate this unboxing with a couple of other unboxings which are similar. And of course, if you recall, last week we had a nice Sunshine Mining SBS drop, and that featured a couple of products which we went over last week, which included the Coors Light bar. This right here is a Coors Light branded bar, which was actually produced by Sunshine Mining Company here in the 1980s. And so this is the grand prize here, I would say, for today. So one of the 4 individuals who took part in this week's SBS drop is actually going to be going home today with this Coors Light bar, and we're going to be finding out who that is today. We also, I would say, have a secondary grand prize, and that's going to be your 1982 dated Sunshine Mining round. And what makes the 1982 round special compared to these other 2 rounds that you see down here, which by the way are 1986 rounds, is that the 1982 round, as well as the 1981 and the 1980 round, these 3 rounds, which are the first 3 years that Sunshine Mining produced the dated rounds, are actually serialized on the edge of the rim. So you'll find, and I'm not going to waste my time trying to show you, but if you take a close look, and the person who actually wins today's drawing and is going home in the 1982 will be able to see this in the flesh, they'll find that there's a nice little serial number faintly written on the side of this round. The final 2 contestants who entered this week's SBS drop are going to be going home with the unserialized 1986 Sunshine Mining rounds. Now these are still, in my opinion, collectible because they're still coming in the original factory seal and they're still vintage, right? And here at SBS, we love our vintage, we love our discontinued, and so I'm very, very excited today to pick up some additional pieces, which I'll be showing you, as well as showing you a nice, more collectible piece within this box that's actually hand-poured from somebody here in the community. And you might see his name somewhere here on the board as well, on the sticker board. So before we get into the unboxings, we have to take care of the first order of business, and that is doing our infamous SBS drawing for these 4 stack packs. Now, the 4 individuals who took part in this week's SBS drop, they've already been made aware of their raffle numbers, and so each of them, you don't know what their names are, but each of them know what their numbers are, and so they've each been assigned a number in accordance with how quickly they opted into the drop. So the first person that entered into the drop, that's number 1. The last person that entered into the drop before we closed it out, that's number 4. And so they're all watching this video hopefully now, and they're all aware of their numbers, and so we're going to be doing our infamous SBS drawing where we figure out exactly who's getting what. And so before we do that, we have to start off with a nice shuffle to keep things very fair, and so that's what we're doing here right now. And as I was going through, and it's been a while since we've done one of these runs, so as I was going through, I was unable to track down the infamous pillowcase, but fear not, because we've been able to upgrade our pillowcase, and we got a nice peacock designed pillowcase here, and it's got a nice velvety top. So this is, I would say, an upgrade. We had a velvety turquoise colored pillowcase before, but this is still, I would say this is an upgrade with all the embroidery and stuff. So it's very, very nice. So let's go ahead and put these stack packs inside the infamous SBS pillowcase, seal this thing shut, and we're going to go ahead and give this a nice shuffle as well. Okay. So we've given that a nice shuffle, And we've got our numbers lined up here, and so let's just go ahead and get straight to the drawing. In true SBS fashion, we're going to be doing things fairly, and so we're going to start with the first person who entered. We're going to start by drawing out their stack pack first, and let's go ahead and use the 2 lucky fingertips and go in and grab whatever comes out first. And boom! There you have it. If you're not first, you are certainly last in this case, because the first person who entered literally drew the grand prize. And so I want to congratulate number 1 for picking up the bar. Now number 2, 3, and 4, you already know what's coming. You're all going to be getting rounds, but who's going to be getting the 1982 dated round? That's still to be determined. So let's go ahead and quickly use those 2 number 2 fingertips to grab the second stack pack, and that second stack pack is a 1986. And so number 2, you didn't quite get the number 1982 dated round, but you still got yourself a nice, beautiful sunshine mining round in the original factory seal. And so now it comes down to number 3 and number 4. So let's go ahead, give this a shake, and grab, let's go ahead and grab 3 lucky fingertips this time for numero 3. And see what it is that we come up with. And another 1986 dated round for number 3. And so that can only mean that number 4 is actually the person who ends up with your 1982 serialized round. So congratulations to you, number 4 and number 1. And in fact, congratulations to all 4 of you, because you opted into this drop, and I'm sure you knew kind of what the outcomes were going to be, and you were happy with those potential outcomes. And so I hope you're all happy with your new pickups of these new beautiful sunshine mining pieces, which are still preserved in the original factory seal. So I'm really excited to finally, I know it's been a week since you guys ordered, but guys and gals have ordered, but I'm very, very excited to get these bars and rounds shipped out to you, as well as consolidate those with the additional items that you may have ordered using the coupon code that you are awarded because you opted into this drop. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I really, really appreciate it when we get some support here on the website, because it helps us keep being able to refresh the inventory, curate the stack, curate the store, and be able to provide you with new offerings. If we kind of come down to a standstill and kind of people stop supporting, and we aren't able to kind of regularly cycle through the inventory like we go through our process on a weekly basis, then it's difficult to be able to share new pieces with you. So thank you so much. We had many repeat customers here, and we also had some new faces here as well who supported on this week's drop. So I want to thank you once again for those who opted in. Now let's go ahead and get into the exciting stuff, which are the unboxings. And so these are some exciting items, and this right here is what I've honestly been eagerly awaiting. So I'm just going to get right to it. Now this right here, like I said before, is actually a hand pour. And I actually picked up not just one, but dos. I picked up 2 hand poured pieces by a member of the community, and that member of the community, just don't even ask me who it is. Okay? Don't ask me. I refuse to let you ask me who has made these pieces. And so let's talk about poured pieces for a little bit. You know, when it comes down to SBS, when it comes down to the store, I would say that by and large, and this is funny because this is something that one of the new subscribers of this channel had kind of brought up to me when we were just kind of having a little back and forth on the channel, and we were kind of finding out that we have pretty similar taste, and I was kind of just mentioning that, you know, here at SBS we're kind of more into the pressed stuff. I kind of like the pressed stuff a lot, and we tend to specialize in a lot of pressed items. You know, if you ask me for he asked me if, hey, SBS, do you have, you know, this or that rare 1 ounce example of an Engelhard bar? I'll probably be like, yeah, we have that if you want it. I mean, you might not be happy with the premium if it's like a crazy rare bar, but there's a good chance we probably have that 1 ounce Engelhard example if you're looking for it. It might not be on the store, but we probably have it for you available to buy if you would like it. But that comes down to the pressed stuff. A lot of that 1 ounce stuff is pressed stuff, right? When you get to these larger bars, 10 ounce bars, 100 ounce bars, some of the odd weight bars, a lot of those You know, a lot of the community stuff that comes out here, a lot of the members of the community like to pour their own stuff, and what's that? That's poured stuff. That's not pressed stuff. They don't have freaking industrial machines where they're pressing stuff, right? They might do a little hand pour, hand cast pour, sand pour, some sort of thing like that. Okay, so now if you have the startup funds to have some big ass machine that's gonna press bars for you, cool. Once you have that infrastructure there, it's very, very cheap and cost effective to press those bars. Right? If you're somebody who's just kind of doing this as a labor of love, you're more than likely going to be pouring your bars. And while, you know, the cost per bar to make a poured bar is more because it takes more labor, right? It's a difficult process. Right, and so when I was talking to Savage Stacker, for example, right, he was telling me, just as an example, just as a general rule of thumb, okay, if you're gonna be hand pouring stuff, if you're gonna be buying hand poured stuff, expect that the premium that you have to sell it at, or the premium that you have to buy it at, just tack on another 50% just to make yourself feel comfortable. Now, a 50% premium, that's gonna scare most seasoned stackers away. A 50% premium, you know, generally is not stacking. At that point, you can't really call it stacking material. You've got to call it collecting material. And so a lot of this poured stuff, I would say, is collectible stuff. And you have to be prepared to pay the premium. And if you're going to be selling it, then you should be expecting to sell it at a higher premium too. But you should also be expecting to buy it at a higher premium when you have to restock that item, right? If you're a seller of it. However, always keep in mind that when you're paying that high premium for this poured stuff, when you have to go and turn around and sell it to a traditional LCS, I'm not talking about if you're going to go sell it to somebody like SBS or somebody who's specializing in that. Very few bullion stores specialize in collectible stuff, right? We are not in the majority for sure, and I'm very well aware of that. Very well aware of that. When we take a poll, somebody took a poll on YouTube the other day asking people what kind of a bar they would prefer to buy between vintage, generic, or somewhere in between, and less than 10% of the people chose the vintage bar. So very few people are interested in vintage. Very few people are interested in paying a significant premium for collectibles. Okay, so one thing to very much keep in mind is when you're paying that premium, if you're not going to put in that extra effort to sell it at a premium, you're going to have to sell it near the melt value. Okay? But that's not to say that the market value is melt value. That's the value that the traditional LCS who runs traditionally would value it. Okay? I personally don't value things that way. I personally value hand pours with a little bit more of a premium, and I want to get into providing more offerings that are poured on the store, but right now it's primarily pressed. And so one of the ways that I wanted to start introducing maybe more poured pieces was to reach out to members of the community and maybe have a little section of the website where, you know, we used to have a section of the website, in fact, called SBS and Friends, and so I'm going to probably reintroduce that section of the store where we're going to have some of our hand-poured pieces by members of the community, just certain individuals who I'm pretty close with, who I just want to go out of my way to support. Okay, and so I think the first individual that we're going to be supporting, who everybody knows, is going to be Don't Ask, because he's just gotten into his hand pours, and I really like his pours. And kind of the way that he approaches his hand pours is he basically does a very small run of hand pours, right? Each one will have its own unique imperfections, and he doesn't do all the markings then and there. He'll have set serial numbers that can be given out, and the way that this run worked, at least, is that I was able to choose my serial numbers. And I want to say that plural because I ended up picking up a nice set of 2 bars, and I got 2 very low serial numbers, which I'm very happy about. It's a very limited run. In fact, there's only a couple bars left actually of this run, and so if you're interested in these bars, you better act quick, because if you're not first, you're last, and a few individuals have already been first. So there's only, I think, a few bars, if any bars left. And so what I was thinking is that I'm going to first, have Don't Ask sell through the remaining bars of his, and then once they're sold through, then I might offer maybe one of these bars, or I might put up the set. I really don't want to let the set go, but I wanted to keep the set together, so maybe I'll put up the set. Yeah, I guess maybe I'll put up the set, or maybe I'll put up just one of the bars. But regardless, I'm going to put up the bar on the SBS and Friends section for now, so you guys can take a closer look at these bars. And then once Don't Ask actually sells through his bars, then I'm going to make either the set or one of the bars available for sale. And then once that sells through, then I'm going to hit up Don't Ask and I'm going to grab another bar from him, and I'm going to put that on the website. And so that's going to be how you'll be able to, at any time that you want, stop by the SBS website and take a look at what Don't Ask is up to, check out his latest work, and maybe even have an opportunity to buy some of his latest work. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what Don't Ask has sent me. I'm very, very excited, and it looks like inside this bubble wrap we have the actual hand pours, and so these are some beauties. These are some absolute beauties. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my gloves out for these, but I just want to make it very clear that Silverstruck has said that for poured stuff, it's okay to touch it with your hands. Don't feel that you don't feel that you need to wear gloves. But I'm doing this for the purposes of being able to show you the contrast and have maybe a better, closer look at these bars. Now this run of bars here that Don't Ask has poured, these were actually a run of approximately 1.3 ounce bars. 1.3 ounce, very odd weight bar, which I like. And there's a couple of bars actually that just fell shy of 1.3 ounces, and so because of that, because Don't Ask is a stand-up guy, and because this is kind of how the rule of thumb is for marking bars, because they fell just shy of 1.3 ounces, it was like 1.2995 or something like that. I can't remember the exact weights off the top of my head, but they were just shy of 1.3. Because of that, these both bars are two of the only bars, I think they might be the only two bars, that are marked with a 1.2 OZT weight stamp. Okay, all the other bars of this run are marked with 1.3. And so I grabbed the two bars that were marked 1.2 ounce, because they're the smallest of the run, and I actually had them marked with number 6 and number 9. So I've got a nice set of Don't Ask's pours here, but I've got the 1.2 ounce variety, and I've got D6 and D9. Very, very difficult to see this. So take a look at that D. You got the D right there, and you've got the 9 right there. 1.2 ounce, and you've got a nice skull there on the front. 999. 999 FS. So 999 fine silver. You got a skull and a 1.2 ounce, and this is D number 9. So take a look at this. She's a beauty. She is an absolute beauty. A nice flat bottom there. We don't have any major imperfections going on there. It's just a clean bar. This D number 9. Okay, now over here we got D number 6. So as a pair, this makes D6 and D9. 69, baby. I intentionally got those two numbers. So skull 999 fine silver, 1.2 ounce, D6. And so these numbers are looking pretty. They're looking pretty rustic, I would say. It's a rustic looking number. I like this. I like what we got going on over here. You know, honestly, I like the imperfection. So this is kind of a flat bar. I think the next bars that I go for from Don't Ask, I'm gonna aim to go for the most funky looking bars. That's my goal for the next run of Don't Ask bars that I get. I'm going to get the most funky looking bars. So this is a nice set. I'm very, very excited to pick up this set. I'm going to get some nice close-up shots of this because I know my lighting isn't perfect here. So I'm going to get some better shots of this, get them up on the website so you guys can take a look. I'll try to get up a SBS and Friends section on the website, reappearing there. I'm not sure if I'll get that done today, but I will try my best to do that so you can take a closer look at these bars. But I'm very, very excited to have been able to take a look at these in the flesh, and I really want to appreciate and show my appreciation for Don't Ask for doing this trade with me and for allowing me to be able to feature these on the website. I'm very, very excited to be able to share his work with the community. I know he's just started his pours, but he's going to be getting better and better by the day. So I would really appreciate it if you got in touch with him and tried to see how you could pick up some of his pieces if he has any available, because I know it's a labor of love for him, and he's not really doing it for the money. He's trying to, just be able to get by, to be able to make that, make enough silver for the next pour, right? So go ahead and hit him up if you're interested. Don't ask me. Don't ask. Actually, don't ask. Don't ask me. Okay? So this is a very exciting pickup. I'm super excited for it. Today's SBS drop is not going to be featuring the Don't Ask bars, unfortunately. I'm not ready to let these go yet. I'm going to, things for the store, I like to hold on to them for a little bit, and once I've had a chance to enjoy them, then I like to let them go. Okay? So I'm going to hold on to these for a little bit, and I'm also going to take a look and see what other goodies Don't Ask sent me, because there's 2 blue mailers here, and I know what to expect here. We've got these little bags, velvet bags, and I actually got 2 velvet bags, one for each of these beautiful bars. So that's a really, really nice touch. And in fact, each of the bags has a bunch of swag. So each bar comes with swag as well. What a deal. What a deal. So the swag includes, this is honestly the first Topps card I've ever seen. I've seen these Topps cards floating around. I don't quite understand the logic behind them, but I do see them kind of going around. They remind me actually of stack packs, right? We have, some stack packs from today's drop. We've got some stack packs that will be appearing for next week's drop. So that reminds me of stack packs. So I like these Topps cards, and this is actually the first Topps card that I've gotten. My Topps cards are actually, in this case, not for humans. I mean, they're for Don't Ask, but they're actually tied to actual pieces. So that's interesting. That's the first time I've heard such a thing being done, right? So this is a Topps certificate of authenticity. I don't actually own any channel members Topps cards, but I have 2 Topps cards for my pet bars, you could say. So D6 right here, this is my way of matching the bar to the certificate of authenticity. D6 right here, this is 1.29 ounces. Its date of birth, my little pet, is March 30th, 2023. Don't Ask classified, position far right, hometown United States of America. So I'm very, very excited about this. Now take a look here. We even got some more swag. We've got a sticker, we've got a magnet. That's exciting. So whoever ends up getting this bar is going to get a bunch of swag with it too, or I might have to siphon out some of the swag and keep it for myself. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that works. Now over here, we got a certificate of authenticity for D9, also 1.29 ounces. So that's pretty cool. I think that's a nice little touch. You get a nice certificate of authenticity, so you never really forget the details. You don't forget when this thing was actually poured. That's pretty cool to be able to keep with the bar. Adds a little bit of bulkiness to this for storage purposes, but it also keeps things organized as well, right? I like to organize my things in boxes. Why not start organizing a little bit in bags, right? So that's really, really exciting. I'm super excited to have picked these hand pours up from Don't Ask. I think he did a really good job with them. So now let's get into the topic of today's video. Today's video, we're actually going to be focusing, because we're taking a look at some hand pours. So I wanted to maybe stay on that theme and also just focus the conversation on hand pours as well. So like poured bars, right? Poured bars generally come at a bit of a premium, but they come in many shapes, forms, sizes. You can get them at varying premiums. Like here we've got a couple of 100-ounce Engelhard vintage bars, right? So those come at pretty high premiums, but these are 100-ounce bars, right? Because these are 100-ounce bars, even though they are, you know, premium vintage bars, you can get them at a pretty good price right now. I would say when you compare 100-ounce vintage bars to any other type of vintage bars, 100-ounce bars are going to be your best bang for your buck. They're also going to cost the highest amount, but you can get some very low mintage 100-ounce bars that are very, very rare actually, for pretty reasonable premiums, right? Because there's not a huge buyer pool for those kind of things. So you'd be surprised, honestly, that you can get some pretty good deals when it comes to 100-ounce bars. Now, when it comes down to maybe like 10-ounce bars, or in this case, this is a 12.9-ounce bar. This is a very odd weight bar, very highly collectible bar, very low mintage bar. This is just a very, very elusive bar. And so something like this will carry a crazy premium, a much higher premium than one of these Engelhards, right? Something like this is maybe a more reasonably priced vintage bar, right? It's still going to carry a premium. It's still pretty difficult to find, right? You don't see a whole lot of them, but you know, comparing this bar to this bar, for example, this one's going to carry a much more digestible premium, and it's still going to carry a lot of character with it as well. So hand poured bars, these are very, very beautiful bars to look at. They're very, very nice. People really like them, and I would say that in the collector community there's a special level of extra craze when it comes to hand poured stuff. I said before that here at SBS, and you know, this new subscriber of ours, he thought it was very interesting that I said this, that yeah, we're more into the press stuff. Well, you know, there's a couple reasons why I'm more into the press stuff. I'm more into the press stuff because it has a more digestible premium a lot of the times. I'm more into the press stuff because it's easier to identify, right? You look at a pressed item and it's just kind of like very recognizable. You can see if it's a fake. You can see, it's just very easy to recognize, right? Whereas a poured bar, you can go down a deep rabbit hole. If you look at all the 10-ounce Engelhard poured bars, good luck. Good luck trying to distinguish between all of them. You know, this one's got a little bit of an X marking. That one's got a half of an X. Oh, that one's got a dot in between the X and the 4. Okay. So yeah, you can get some crazy, crazy rare poured bars. There's some very, very amazing poured bars. I've got some of them myself. I mean, look at this. This right here is a 100-ounce waffle back. How often do you see a 100-ounce waffle back Engelhard? I mean, you don't see that very often, right? So it's very, very nice, but it will carry a premium, and the premiums will vary. Okay, so I personally like to stick to press stuff because I find it's more of like a hybrid stacking and collecting. There's some very, very expensive pressed bars that I have. I'm not gonna lie, very many actually. Many would call them unreasonable. I'll probably never be able to sell them all. Will probably be part of my personal collection because there's such a small buyer pool for some of these very, very high premium pressed bars, as well as poured bars. However, I just personally have always stacked press stuff, and so I'm more into the press stuff. And I would say that, generally speaking, more people are into the poured stuff. Generally, if you were to give somebody an option between pressed and poured, they would prefer, if they were the same price, they would prefer the poured stuff. But like I said before, and this is something that Savage was telling me, is that like the hand poured stuff, you're going to have to expect to pay a premium for it. And you're also going to have to expect that when you sell it to a traditional retailer, that you're going to have to sell it without the premium attached. Okay, so that's why buying the poured stuff is a little bit more risky, but it might be a little bit more pleasurable for you if you like the aesthetics of the poured stuff a little bit more. So now I'm thinking today what we're going to do, since people are kind of into the poured stuff, and since I don't offer it a lot on the store, I thought today what we're going to do is we're going to do a nice little SBS drop that contains an assortment of poured pieces. Okay, and so anybody who opts into this week's drop, they're going to have a chance to win, and they're going to be guaranteed to win some sort of poured precious metals pieces. But each item in the prize pool is going to be completely different. Okay, and the items in the prize pool are going to be dependent upon how many people we get into the drop. So I'm going to have, you know, lots of items, separate lots of items. They're all hand poured pieces. Okay, and each individual opts in. I'm going to make this a $50 drop, so each person who opts into this $50 drop is going to have a chance to win one of these bundles of poured pieces. Okay, That's how this is going to work. Now, before we get into the items that are going to be featured in this week's drop, I'm going to do an unboxing of these two items, because actually some of the items that I want to feature in this week's drop are items that I just got in. So let's take a look and see what we got here. Now, this first lot of items that I picked up, I wanted to share with you. I thought it was very interesting because this is not pieces that I'm actually normally collect, but I have seen Daddy Silverbucks. He collects some bars by this mint, and I've also seen Silverstruck. He collects some bars by this mint, and so I thought, you know, they're pretty cool. They're poured pieces. I'm not super into the poured pieces, but you know, this is a good opportunity to pick some up. So I thought, let me go ahead and snipe this, because what happened here in this situation is that the person who was selling these didn't know what they were selling. They actually marketed these pieces as Monarch Precious Metals pieces, and so now we know Monarch Precious Metals. They're around today, and they actually still produce stuff today. A lot of people, like AG Stacker 1776, he actually gets his channel runs made by Monarch Precious Metals. So they're still around today, and they, you know, a lot of people buy stuff from them, and you know, some of their older stuff that they don't make anymore is a little bit more collectible. We have actually a couple of Monarch Precious Metals pieces on the store that are actually a little bit higher premium because they don't make them anymore. And so I'm really into stuff like that. I'm really on the SUS store. You'll come to realize that we're not really into stuff that's currently available, right? So you're not going to find a lot of generics, right? You're not going to find generic buffaloes near spot on the SBS website, because that's not what we specialize in. We like to specialize in like unique pieces that are like hard to acquire, like it's difficult to find them. So we have a couple of like discontinued Monarch Precious Metals pieces on the store, for example. Okay, so I like some Monarch Precious Metals pieces, for example, like this, and I'm gonna I've only got a couple of these, so I'm gonna include one of them in this week's drop potentially, depending on how many people we have in. But this right here, this is a 50-gram poured square by Monarch Precious Metals. I find this to be a very cool little bar, and I don't think you can find these too easily anymore. I mean, they don't. I don't think Monarch Precious Metals sells these anymore directly through them. So like you'll have to buy these on the secondary market now. So these are the types of things that I enjoy, because there's just something about having what you can't have. I like having what I can't have. It's nice. It's nice to have what you don't have. So let's go ahead and see what we got on this first package. Oh, and so this is actually not what I was expecting it to be. This is something that I picked up after having won this. Okay, so this is the actual thing that I won that was marketed as a Monarch Precious Metals item, and that item was not a Monarch Precious Metals item. It was actually an Atlantis Mint item, and these are also Atlantis Mint items. These right here, much smaller than I thought they were going to be. These right here are 10-gram ingots by the Atlantis Mint. 10 grammars, 10G999, and they've got 2 skulls there on the front. Just a little poured chunker. So I thought these are super duper cool, and I thought I'm going to probably include one of these in this week's drop. So I'm going to include one of these in this week's drop as well. Got a nice little lot of them. So I was pretty excited to pick up these, because these I think are not very difficult to, not very easy to come by. The 10 grammers. So we got some 10-gram little poured chunkers by Atlantis Mint. Super excited about that. That's nice. And then let's take a look and see what we got here. So this right here was marketed as Monarch Precious Metals, but in reality they were Atlantis Mint pieces. And so because of that, Monarch Precious Metals pieces, especially if they're readily available and they're not like discontinued pieces, they're not that expensive. Even the poured stuff, like when it comes down to poured stuff, right? If I'm going to go buy some poured stuff from Don't Ask, well, Don't Ask is not making the poured pieces at an industrial level like maybe Monarch Precious Metals is, for example. So he's not going to be able to offer the most competitive unit cost, obviously, because he's not making it at high volume using all this, you know, huge fancy equipment. He's got some equipment, but it's not to make it at the rate of thousands of units per day or something like that, right? So when it comes down to buying poured pieces, Monarch Precious Metals, they're a good option, right? If you're going for some of their non-discontinued, they're currently available inventory of poured pieces, you could probably get a nice poured 1 ounce bar for a pretty reasonable price. I mean, you're going to have to pay a premium, and you're going to probably have to pay maybe even that 50% premium, but you at least won't have to pay like 100% premium. So you'll be able to get something at a reasonable price. So the Monarch Precious Metals poured pieces even are going to come at a much more reasonable premium than, say, like an Atlantis Mint or an Engelhart or even like an Ohio Precious Metals or definitely like a Bunker Hill, right? These types of bars are going to sell at a higher premium because they're more collectible, they're discontinued, they're more rare, right? So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got here. A nice chunker of a package. There we go. So what's pretty interesting about this is that the reason I was actually going after this was because of my Geigers. I'm a huge fan of these Geiger Generation 1 bars. Always like to pick these up when I get a chance, and so I was able to get them. Very difficult to find these nowadays. They don't make these anymore. Now the Geiger bars that you can get are square shaped, and they have, you know, a little security feature on the back where you can shine up a black light to it to make sure it's legit. You have a serial number attached to it. They're completely different, right? So I like things that are unique. I like things that are different. So I don't like the common squares. I mean, I collect the common squares. I like the 1 gram squares. I like the 5 gram squares. I like grabbing those in the discontinued boxes. Again, discontinued. But I'm a bigger fan of these unserialized Generation 1 rectangular squares when it comes to Geiger. Okay, so this is the stuff that I'm after when it comes to Geiger. You know, you can buy a bunch of Geiger rectangular squares. Those are very common. Just like the Geiger silver squares are common. The rectangular copper squares by Geiger are very common as well. But the square-shaped copper bars, those are not so common, especially when it comes down to the 1 ounce and the 2 ounce variety. Those aren't, you don't see a lot of these out there. Premiums higher, yes. Harder to find, yes. So I tend to gravitate towards the more collectible stuff. So this is why I picked up the Geigers, but because this is why I picked up this lot, because of the Geigers. But then what actually happened is we had these toned up beauties right here that were also part of the lot. And over here you'll see there's actually one Monarch Precious Metals bar. So this is, I think, a bar that you can still probably buy from Monarch Precious Metals today, but it's an ultra toned bar. It's got quite a bit of patina there, and it's got a lot of character. I like this bar a lot, but these bars come at a pretty reasonable premium. I would say you could probably pick one of these up for maybe 40 bucks. 35, 40 bucks, you could probably pick one of these up. Because this has got a little bit of toning on it, it's got a little bit more character, but yeah, 35, 40 bucks I would say is maybe the market rate for something like this. So I'm going to probably include one of these in this week's drop. That's a nice poured piece, and that's something that I picked up with the intention of maybe including in this week's drop. These two bars, however, are not by Monarch Precious Metals, and the seller thought that they were. They're not marked Atlantis Mint, right? They look kind of like this Monarch Precious Metals bar, but these are not made by the same manufacturer, by the same refiner. This right here is Monarch Precious Metals, still available today. These right here are Atlantis Mint, no longer produced. So these should be carrying a higher premium, actually, than this Monarch Precious Metals bar, and so that's why I really picked up this whole lot, was because of these bars right here. So I'm very, very excited to have been able to pick those up. Now this week's drop is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a little bit complicated, but not too complicated. I'll make sure that you understand what's going on here. So this week's drop, we're going to be focusing on poured pieces, okay? And now we've got some poured pieces here that we picked up. And we also got support pieces that we've had for quite a while. And so what I'm thinking, what we're going to probably do here is we're going to have different pools of items that the individuals who opt into this week's drop, they're going to be able to claim. Okay, so now the first lot of items that I'm going to have up for grabs for people who enter this week's drop, and if we just get one person entering this week's drop, then this is what they're going to be winning. The more people that enter this week's drop, that's when the lottery starts, right? So if we only, after this entire week of letting this week's drop run, if we only get, one person entering, then this is the item that they're going to win. They're going to get an original bag here, M6 metals, with 5 hand-poured skulls. That's prize number 1. And again, this is going to be a $50 drop. So premiums are going to be higher on this, right? This isn't even an ounce of silver right here. Just 5 fractional skull rounds. Each of these weigh between 3 to 5 grams. I would say most of them like 4 to 4.5 grams. Okay, so you got 5 skull rounds with the original bag. That's prize pool number 1. That's the first item that you might potentially win if you opt into this week's drop. Now, if we get a second person who opts in, Monarch Precious Metals. Okay, Monarch Precious Metals. That's what's going to happen. You can get the Monarch Precious Metals bar, and we'll also throw in a skull round as well. So this is prize number 2. You would have a chance to potentially win this, or potentially win this, if there's 2 individuals who enter. If there's just a single individual enters, they're going to win this. Now let's say 3 individuals come into the picture. Well, what's going to happen then? Well, in that case, we're going to have a set of copper bars paired with a couple skull rounds, 2 skull rounds, a 1 ounce copper bar by Geiger, a 2 ounce copper bar by Geiger, both poured, and 2 hand poured skull rounds that are hand toned as well. This is prize pool number 3. That's the lot number 3. What else do we got here? Number 4. A Jaeger poured silver ½ ounce nugget. That's a pretty cool one. And we'll pair that with 3 skull rounds. How's that? I like it. I like it a lot. In fact, let's throw an extra skull round there. Let's throw an extra skull round there. Let's throw an extra skull round there. How's that? Number 5. The 10 grammer. It's a really, really small little ingot, but it carries a lot of punch. Okay? And to refortify that with a little bit more punch, we'll throw in a single skull round. So you've got prize pool number 1. I mean, this is the prize pool. You've got item lot number 1. Okay, if we get 2 people to join in, then they'll be drawing between item lot number 1 and 2. If we get 3 people joining, we'll get them drawing between item lot number 1, number 2, and number 3. If we get 4 people joining, we'll have them drawing between item lot number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. If we have 5 people who join in, we'll have them going between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And finally, if we get 6 people who join in this week's drop, the 50 gram bar is going to be up for grabs in this week's drawing, and somebody is going to be going home with it. So this is a 50 gram discontinued Monarch Precious Metals poured bar. Look at that. This is a nice one too. It's got a little bit of a really, really unique imperfection there on the front. I really like that about this bar. So the only way that this bar is going to be up for grabs in this week's drop is if we actually get 6 individuals, 6 unique individuals joining in on this week's drop. Only then will this be available in the prize pool. Okay, so that's how this week's drop works. It's a complicated one. Okay, so I hope everyone understood how this works. Okay, a maximum of 6 people can join. There's a maximum of 1 unit per person, so don't order more than 1 unit. You only have 1 chance. Okay, and there's going to be maximum 6 people who can join in. So if there's 1 person who joins in, they get this. If there's 2 people who join in, they're competing between this and this. If there's 3 people who join in, they're competing between these 3 lots of items. If there's 4 people joining in, then they go between these 4 lots of items. If there's 5 people who join in, they go between these 5 lots of items. And if there's 6 people who join in, they go between these 6 lots of items. Okay, so this is what's in the prize pool for this week's drop. I hope those who are into the poured pieces and willing to digest a little bit of a premium are interested in joining this week's drop, and I hope to see some familiar faces and some new faces join in. I know this was a really long video. We're over 45 minutes now. Probably not going to edit this either because I just don't have the time or can't be bothered to do that. So thanks for sticking through this, and I hope you have a blessed day. Cheers!